Hello, Mr. Abdu.
Hello, my host.
Why do some Nigerians feel it's hard to defend APC policies today? Why do some Nigerians feel it is hard to defend APC
Okay.
policies today?
Well, thank you for the question. Um, Nigeria feels it is difficult to defend the policy of the APC-led government because the policies are not pro-masses. They are not working. It doesn't resonate with the people. The policies do not resonate with the people. That's why it's difficult to defend it because it's reflecting in our daily lives, in our transactions, and in our efforts to see how we can afford daily living. Like affording 3 square meal in Nigeria, you can't even talk about 2 square meal, let alone 3 square meal. So matters have taken, worse dimension, and that's why it's difficult to defend the economic policy of the Tinubu-led administration.
Do you think the opposition party is strong enough to challenge the ruling party?
Yes, the opposition parties, let me so to speak, parties, not party, are strong enough to challenge the ruling party on one condition. And that condition is if they are willing, to come into partnership in form of coalition or I would say alliance, form a formidable force to challenge the ruling party and oust it from power come 2027. The same way the ruling party gained power in 2020. In 2015, the only difference here is that the ruling party went through a merger of all the then opposition parties to challenge the ruling party, the ruling PDP of them. Meanwhile, in 2027, we are most likely to see, not merger this time around, but an alliance of political parties to challenge the ruling party.
Between President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Mr. Peter Obi, what leadership qualities do Nigerians seem to prefer?
Nigerians would naturally prefer His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi, because Mr. Peter Obi is number one, an entrepreneur. And Mr. Peter Obi is popular, and what makes him more popular is the way he goes about marketing his ideas, marketing his ideologies, selling his, policies of a future government if he gets into power, how he intends to bring the youth, to the limelight, bringing them to the center of power, making them to have this inclusivity in terms of the women and the youth and people with disability and special needs. But I think Mr. Peter Obi resonates more with Nigerian masses because he has promised Nigerians that he himself being a trader, if he gets to the saddle of power, he will ensure that he really brings SMEs, that is small and medium scale enterprises, and then give credit lines to our jobless youth so that they will be able to, leverage their capacities and their intellectual endowments to see how they can fend for themselves as traders and as entrepreneurs, and of course as innovators and also techpreneurs. So this is the promise Mr. Peter Obi holds for Nigeria. But I'm not campaigning for him. I'm not campaigning for him, but at least we've listened to Mr. Peter Obi, and we have also listened to the President Tinubu's, government functionaries, especially the Minister of Trade and Investment, and also, other Director Generals who are in charge of, the micro and the macro economies. So we've only seen lip services being paid, to public office, but we've not seen any tangible action so far.
Do you believe the 2027 presidential election would be free and fair?
2027 presidential election can only be free and fair on one condition. And that condition rests squarely on the consciousness of Nigerian youths to stand firm and insist that election must be free and fair. Right? Starting with INEC, putting pressures on INEC, And of course, this is where the civil society organizations have to come to do their job. Nobody will do this for us. This country is the only country we have. We are first-class citizens in our countries today. The moment we cross to Ghana, nearby Ghana or Niger, we become second-class citizens. We cannot really make any solid claims to our fundamental rights. But here in Nigeria, our youth are free. They can move around, and of course, they have the, support of their families and the rest of them, unlike when they are abroad. So I think if the youth of this country, the young people of this country, who constitute about 70% of the population, the demography of the country, if they band themselves together peacefully and decide to democratically challenge the ruling party, not through violence and not through chaos, but democratically challenge the ruling party, the election will be fair and fair. And it is not even about the ruling party alone. INEC, that is, deemed to be an unbiased umpire, the chief regulator of our electoral, process. INEC must be put on its toes to do the right thing, and that starts with pressures from civil society organizations. And of course, the youth must get involved. Our youth must not just always be carried away by social media, always getting glued to their phones and catching clues on social media. No, it is time to use that gadget in their hands, to see how they can bring about the necessary change that we need to see, especially in the leadership of INEC. And of course, the way INEC conducts itself, because the patterns that are emerging right now from INEC is not encouraging. But with pressure from our young people, and of course from the opposition and the political leaders, and of course even people who have conscience who are in the ruling party, with pressure coming from all these quarters, we believe that INEC will do the right thing, if not 100%, at least in reasonable measure.
Do you think the National Assembly is helping to solve Nigerians' problems?
Yes, the National Assembly is helping to solve Nigeria's problem and at the same time contributing to Nigeria's problem. Because the National Assembly is supposed to be the most important arm of government, in the sense that it is meant to checkmate the excesses of the executive. But the same National Assembly in recent time has been seen, more or less toeing to the wishes and then a kind of pandering to the wishes of the executive arm of government. You've seen a lot of, bills from the executive arm of government, especially the tax bill, the tax regime bill, the electoral act, and the rest of them. Very, very controversial bills getting passed by the National Assembly without scrutiny and proper, accountability. So, and you can always say, also say in another breath, the National Assembly is contributing to solving Nigeria's problem, because National Assembly members, whether in the Senate or in the Reps, is a conglomerate of the voices of Nigerians in totality. This is the melting. I would say this is the converging point of all the ethnic nationalities in Nigeria, all the different societies and communities in Nigeria. So they've been trying their best. Of course, we have some very, very good and active members of National Assembly who have been trying to promote some laws, some bills, to see how they can better society and all that. But then we can say they contribute more to the problem of the country than they solve.
Why is impeachment so rare in Nigerian politics?
Impeachment is very rare because right from especially the Fourth Republic, when I say the Fourth Republic, I mean since 1999, impeachment has always been, or sometimes been attempted, but they were never successful. Not because the relevant sections of the Constitution did not empower Nigerian lawmakers to impeach the executive, but because the lawmakers themselves have become, so to speak, with all due respect to them, some of them have decided to make themselves rubber stamps, And although in the 8th Senate we saw superlative performances in the Saraki-led Senate, and in the 9th Senate we saw some brilliant performances too. But in the 10th Senate, I'm afraid the performances of the National Assembly have been a bit, dismal. It's not encouraging, and getting the president impeached is difficult. If you are talking about, because the only arm of government that is empowered to impeach the president if the president commits impeachable offenses or breaches the constitution is the National Assembly. And the fundamental reason, the chief reason why National Assembly, as it is constituted today, cannot even attempt it can't even contemplate impeaching the executive is because, don't forget, the leadership of the National Assembly at inception were chosen by the executive arm of government. Their emergence was influenced. So they are here, especially, I'm not talking about individual senators, I'm talking about rep members, I'm talking about the leadership of National Assembly itself as it is constituted today, has been led by the Senate President. They didn't emerge or come about through popular votes of the members. If the members are freely allowed to vote who they want to represent them at the Senate, who they want to lead them at the Senate level, the House of Rep level, you would have seen a National Assembly that would have been performing at its peak. But today, the performance is abysmal or dismal, if I may use the word, with all due respect to them, because the leadership of National Assembly is hamstrung. Every law they want to pass, even ordinary motions, is being monitored by the executive through the senior special assistant to the president of National Assembly, whose office is already embedded in National Assembly here. With such an office already embedded in National Assembly here, which I think it is unconstitutional, because the Constitution never provides that a senior special assistant to the president should have an office embedded within the premises or within the offices of the National Assembly here, as if the legislators were, school children, being policed, up and down, and everything they have to do will have to go through that channel of scrutiny before they will even be able to table it before the General House. So you can see it is absolutely and literally impossible for members to think of impeaching the president if at all the president commits impeachable offenses.
Why do we keep the same political system even when citizens say it isn't working well?
Yeah, the reason we keep having the same political system recycled, election year after election year, is because we are not yet ready to restructure this country. If Nigeria were to be restructured, I don't think we should be practicing a presidential system of government where absolute and so much power is vested in the hands of one person, which is Mr. President. And whatever he says, when the president sneezes, the country jacks up. So, but if you have a system, I think Nigeria has to go back to parliamentary system of government, whereby the regions will nominate or elect people that they think can best represent their interests. We don't need this bicameral legislature because it is too expensive, number one, and it's too cumbersome to manage. And some of the legislators are here, not all of them, but quite a number of them are in the National Assembly to fend for themselves and their families, amass wealth, possibly buy private jets and choice properties and the rest of them. But of course, there are so many of the legislators who are patriotic citizens who are in the National Assembly to see how they can better the lives of their people, trying to see how they can empower their people, how they can attract developmental initiatives and infrastructure to their people. We've seen some legislators doing the job of executive in their respective states, influencing road construction and the rest of them, training, skill acquisition for women, youth, and the rest of them, whereby some other legislators are not even doing anything for their people. So I think we need to restructure this country. We need to go back to our old system of government, the parliamentary system of government, which we practiced during the First and Second Republic. I think that is what will lead Nigeria to its El Dorado, to the promised land, so to speak. Because the presidential system of government, not just expensive, it is almost incompatible with our Nigerian system. You have too much of power in the hands of one person. So when you have a president who does not respect the law of the land, who is surrounded by praise singers and people who are afraid to tell him the truth, then, and of course, if the president becomes too ambitious, over ambitious, he prioritized the interests of himself and his family and his cronies and friends over the national interests, then we are in trouble. There is no checkmate in place, because I just mentioned that the arm of the National Assembly, which is the arm of government that is vested with the constitutional power to checkmate the excesses of the executive, is almost nowhere in this equation. Our democracy needs to be restructured. If not, there is nothing we can do. We'll keep having recycled leaders, we'll keep recycling. The young people of this country will find it difficult to rise up to power, because who is my host, you're just a young graduate. You've not worked, let alone amassing wealth. Even if you have the leadership position now, you can't even buy your nomination form. You might have the best quality to represent your people, but you are hamstrung, because you can't even afford your nomination form. Nomination forms are ridiculously expensive. So let alone going around to campaign, mobilize people, and the rest of them. So you see, the system is badly shaped. So we need to restructure this country so that Nigeria does not implode.
APC or ADC?
You can have an opposition party that will campaign and get voted to power tomorrow, only for them to go back and continue from where the party who has been ousted from power stopped. So and prayer cannot save us. Prayer is not enough. Yes, prayer is good, but we need to take practical, realistic steps to see that this country is put on the right path. So it doesn't matter. I'm not really a fan of parties, even though I belong to one of the opposition parties. I'm not a fan of parties, because parties do not guarantee good governance.
Thank you, Mr. Abdu. We enjoy your section.